This video is part of our At Home with Nature series, Earth and Sky. We live on an amazing planet, don't we? The Earth. But have you ever looked up into the sky and wondered what's out there beyond the Earth? Yeah, maybe you have thought, wow, the sky seems endless. Or maybe you've seen some tiny objects in the sky and have thought, wow, they must be really far away. Well, if you thought either of those things, you would be right. You know, in our daytime sky, there is an object you just can't miss. That's the sun. And the sun is a star. It's our closest star to planet Earth. You know, we need the sun. The sun gives our planet warmth. The sun gives our planet light. Life on Earth could not exist without the sun. So the sun really is a star, isn't it? And the sun, it's so big and it's so heavy, it pulls the Earth around it in a path called an orbit. We actually measure our years in the amount of time it takes for the Earth to move all the way around the sun. So maybe you are 7 years old. It means you have circled the sun 7 times already in your life. And not only does the Earth circle the sun, the Earth also spins or rotates. It does. And as the Earth spins, we see a different position of the sun in our sky. Yeah, so we actually measure our days by the amount of time it takes the Earth to spin one time. And in that time, the position of the sun in our sky goes through some big changing, doesn't it? And it's not good for us to look at the sun as we're outdoors during the day. It's not good for our eyes, but we can see shadows made by the sun, and we can watch them and see how they change. So I'm going to send you on a shadow hunt outdoors. So on a sunny day, head outside and look for some shadows. Look for shadows made by trees or buildings. Look for your own shadow. And when you find them, take a good look at them and notice their size. They might be short and squatty if the sun is directly overhead, or they might be long and thin if it's in the morning or the end of the day. Wow, you know, sundials use shadows to measure time. And you can actually make a human sundial using you as the shadow stick. It's fun and it's easy. All you need is a piece of chalk and someone to help you in a sunny day. So when you have those things, head outside and start in the morning and find a sunny patio or a sunny driveway and make an arrow with your chalk and stand in the direction of the arrow with one foot on either side of the arrow and have your friend trace your shadow. And then write the time of day inside your shadow tracing. And then a couple hours later, come back and stand in the same position again. Stand in the direction of the arrow with one foot on either side of it. And again, have somebody trace your shadow. And then do it a third time in a few more hours. And then notice how the shadows have changed. Wow, they should be different sizes. They should be different positions. They've changed because the position of the sun in the sky has changed. And the position of the sun in the sky changes because the Earth spins or rotates. And speaking of shadows, there's one really big shadow called nighttime. That's a great time of day to look up and see the sky. So maybe you're like me and you like to look for the moon in the sky. And we can see the moon sometimes during the day, but I love to look for it in the night sky as well. When I see it, it really delights me because the moon is our nearest neighbor in the whole universe. And it's also the only place other than Earth where humans have been able to travel so far. So it makes it a very special thing to look at in our sky. And when we see the moon from night to night, we might think the moon changes shape, but the moon doesn't change shape. So what's happening here? Well, when we see the moon in the sky, we are looking at sunlight reflecting off the surface of the moon. And something else is going on as well. The moon moves. It moves around the Earth. And as it moves around the Earth, our view of the moon's sunlit side changes. So when the moon is all the way over here, we get to see its full sunlit face. But when the moon is here, we don't see the moon at all, because the sunny side of the moon is on the other side of us. So we call them the moon's phases. So they're different views of the moon's sunlit side, and we see them at different times during our month. Wow. Well, you can actually view the moon well. You can head outside on a night when the moon is visible and lay on your back and look up at the moon. And if you have binoculars, use those. But if you don't have binoculars, that's okay. You can still see the moon really well. And as you look at the moon, you're going to see holes or craters. They were made by chunks of rock and big pieces of ice that have hit the moon and have left their marks. And the moon also has mountains, just like the Earth does. And there's some dark areas on the moon. There are dried up lava beds. And if you squint when you look at the moon, it kind of looks like all those shapes make a face. And that's where the phrase, the man in the moon, comes from. And as you're looking up into the sky, you might see some other things up there too. You might see some stars in the sky. They look like tiny points of light, but it's important for us to know that stars are enormous in size. They're just really far away. Our sun, it's a medium-sized star, but 1 million Earths would fit inside of it. And it's just a medium-sized star. There are some stars that are 100 times as big as our sun. So that means 100 million Earths would fit inside of those stars. And not only are they big, stars are hot. It's kind of like a campfire. A campfire burns wood and creates heat. Well, stars burn different gases and they create heat and light. And with a campfire, as you get closer to it, you can see its light, you can feel its warmth. So we are millions of miles from the sun. So imagine how hot it is that we can still feel its warmth all the way from the Earth. And as we look up into the sky, we see stars, we can see the moon, and sometimes we see other things. Sometimes we see planets up there. There are 8 planets that circle our sun, including the Earth. And together we're sort of a family of the sun. It's a solar system. So there's a lot out there in this universe. Time for you to head outside and to look up and to discover some of its many wonders.